Next month, we've got Department of Corrections is going to do a program on threat alert. What to do if somebody comes into your place of business, or what kind of signals to pick up. So we hope to have more interesting programs down the line. If anybody has suggestions, let me know, please. I'd like to introduce Laura Auerback of the Carroll County Health Department, who is a substance abuse prevention supervisor for Carroll County. She's a certified prevention professional and internationally certified prevention specialist. She sits on the board of the Maryland Collaborative to Reduce College Drinking and Related Problems through Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. She is on the DEA Heroin Fentanyl Task Force team, excuse me, and she's been in the field of substance abuse for over 18 years. This is Laura. Linda.
That's right. And is my pocket mic on now? No. Okay, so I'll give this to you. This is my coworker, Carol Mullen, and she's also in the prevention office of the Carroll County Health Department. And her specialty, you cannot hear me. Okay. Now you can. And her specialty is underage drinking in our county. And back here, who's going to work the computer for us in the slides is another coworker, Amy Legel. She's the prevention coordinator for the county. So we're going to start out by having fun. We're going to do a raffle.
Did everybody fill out a raffle ticket when you came in? If you didn't, I have some extra. So if you want to, we'll do it. Okay? Everybody has one? Okay. All right. No? Here we go. While we're doing this, the first thing we're going to do today, besides the raffle, here's some tickets. Anybody have a ticket here? We're going to start off our presentation today with an underage drinking prevention video. The video was sponsored by SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Every state in the union has an underage drinking prevention video. And why do you think they're focusing on underage drinking? Why do you think that's such a hot topic? Anybody have any comments?
Over here.
So prevalent, very good, yes. So accessible. And that's true in Carroll County. So the film was actually filmed in Carroll County, even though it's our state video. We have Foolproof, which was or is a improv group from the different high schools in our area. Those students are representative, and also students from Bowie State. So, and the film is 8 minutes long, so just kind of bear with us. Fill out the raffle ticket. Why don't we do the raffle after the video? And then we'll kind of think about what's really happening in this video, because social hosting, parents providing alcohol, happens here in our county. So without further ado.
So listen, the beer is in the keg by the bar. You can drink the beer, but stay away from the hard liquor.
All right, thanks, Mom.
You know, I'm really glad that I know you guys will be safe, and especially that nobody will be driving. Oh, and remember that I will be coming downstairs to collect the keys.
Mom, can't you just leave the basket on the counter and they'll put them in and I'll bring it up?
Shelby, no, that was not our deal. If I have the keys, then I know nobody's driving. So I'll be down, I promise I won't embarrass you. I'll get the keys and I'll leave. All right? All right, well, you have fun, okay, and be safe, okay, sweetie?
All right, thanks, Mom.
Shelby, your mom is so cool.
Yeah, she's all right.
Mama would never let me do this. Are you kidding me?
Let's get a picture before everyone gets here.
Yeah.
Here's to a good night.
Cheers.
Hey guys, listen up.
If you plan on staying at this party, I need your keys. Hand them over. Come on, guys. How about you?
I walked.
Keys.
I came with Jeff.
Come on, you know the deal. I'll keep him safe. You'll get him in the morning. All right. Got them all. All right, have fun. Be safe.
Okay, fine. Mark, good shot.
On the boat.
Like this whole game is about
Hey, Shelby. Oh, down Is she okay?
Help me get her on the couch. I need to get a picture with her.
I don't think you. I just need you to make one. Let me get like 2 more beers.
Here, take my phone, get the picture.
Okay, hold on. Alright, smile. Here, Jake texted you.
Oh. Hey, Jake's having a party too.
Yeah?
We should go.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey guys, Jake's having a party.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I'll go get that.
Yeah.
We need to
Hey, come on, Jeff. We're heading out. Jake's having a party. We're gonna head over there.
All right, dude. Hey, hold on. Check this out.
Oh, no way, man. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, no way. Come on, let's go.
Come on, guys. Let's roll out. I'm driving.
Dude, how did you get your keys back, man?
I got a spare set, man.
All
Shelby, I need to talk to you. Shelby, hey. Shelby. Wake up, would you? Shelby, wake up. Shelby. Shelby, oh my God, someone.
Ma'am, do you know these kids?
Yeah.
I stopped the car they were in 4 blocks back. The driver is under arrest for DUI. All 4 of them have been drinking and said they came from your house.
Shelby, please wake up. Oh my God. Oh my God, Shelby. Shelby, wake up. Go get help. Go get help. Watson. Shelby, please wake up.
Dude, we need to get out of here before we get in trouble. Yeah, let's go.
Well, I don't know how that's possible because I took their keys.
Miss Watson?
In the house, guys. Step in the house, please. stand off to the right.
Shelby, wake up. What happened? What happened? Oh my gosh.
Move out of the way. Move out of the way. Move out of the way.
Shelby, wake up.
away.
Shelby, what did you do to her?
What did you do to her?
Can't believe I got a $2,500 citation for having that party. I never thought anything could go wrong. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was keeping them safe. Shelby, I need to be your parent, not your friend.
You think you're protecting your kids, but you're really not.
Okay, without further ado, I always have a backup plan. So I have a PowerPoint for you since we're having projector issues. So Carol will hand those out. And I can ad-lib, so it'll be fine. Would you mind passing those? Right. We're used to technical difficulties. You know, we are in a field where things don't go smoothly when you're working with substance abuse. So, first of all, you should have several handouts. You should have our newsletter. This is the Prevention Office newsletter. And then you should have a fast facts list. So, before I get into the presentation today is on opioids. Thank you. And that's what I was asked to present on. Of course, you know, our office deals with everything with substance abuse. You know, alcohol, marijuana, current trends, synthetics, cocaine, you know, opioids, prescription drugs, just everything. You know, so we could go out, it would be hours. So we usually, you know, whatever we cater, you know, to what your needs are. So keep that in mind. We can come to your church. We do all the outreach. You know, we go into schools. We also teach anger management, refusal skills, you know, parenting classes, just a whole array. And also our office, we network, you know, so if you need resources, you know, or if you just need to call to find out information, we will put a packet together for you. So all of our services are free, so that's one thing we want to make sure everyone knows that. And they're still working on the PowerPoint. So before we get to the PowerPoint though, so today we're going to talk about opioids. But first, on this sheet, and if you don't have one, please visit our booth, and everything up here is free. So you can just, you know, grab what you want. One thing that is not on here, and if later we'll have questions if there is anything that you want to talk about, but one thing that's not on here is weed oil, and I wanted to mention that because we're seeing a lot of it. It was in the news recently in Baltimore County. 10 middle schoolers ate cookies, you might remember, and all rushed to the hospital. And what it was, the cookies were baked with weed oil, so you're not seeing the flakes from marijuana. But what it is, it's 70 to 80% more potent than your marijuana. You're taking pot and you're actually, like a double broiler, it's like cooking. You're putting it in 2 pans and you're using butane and you're heating it up. And they also call it dabbing and waxing, if you've ever heard those terms, especially those of you who are in substance abuse. And I do have a brochure up here on it, so please make sure you grab it. It looks like honey. It liquefies it. And why this is so important that I want everyone here to know is what they're doing with this, besides baking with it, they're putting it in the e-cigarettes that you see. So they can be in school, they can be in public places, you know, and they can be blowing it out and nobody is ever to the wiser. you only need a few drops also. And on the e-cigarette, which I do have one at the booth, you can get 150 hits out of an e-cigarette. And it only takes a few drops. They also put them in something called wee elfin bottles. It's a teeny tiny bottle. And again, they can take it to school, take it to work with their lunch, they spread it on paper, they eat it. So again, we're seeing more of this in our county, and everything I'm talking about today we see and what's on here in our county. So please Amy will be at the booth later, and Carol, ask questions. So it looks like our PowerPoint is up. So we'll go ahead and get started. First slide. For those of you who do not know what an opioid is, because in the field, we use that term a lot. It's actually a narcotic pain reliever, and it directly depresses the central nervous system. And there's natural opioids that are grown from the opioid poppy seed, which I'll have some pictures of in a minute, and the poppy plant, and that's most of our opioid that comes into the country, 90% is grown in Afghanistan. I've just learned recently the heroin use in Maryland, though, they really like the heroin that comes from Southeast Asia. So it's just processed differently. But there's also synthetic opioids. One of the synthetics opioids that I'm going to talk about today, if I can find my little packet, which you probably have heard of, is fentanyl. And this is a fentanyl patch, and this is used, for people with cancer and for pain and such in a good way. But it also can be manufactured in a laboratory, which it has a similar structure. And they call that being cooked, like crystal meth is cooked. It's cooked in a lab. So there's natural and synthetic opioids, and collectively, opiates, and they call them opioids. And those common ones that are abused are heroin. The next slide just shows you a little bit, it's the brain, and talks about opioids depress breathing by changing activity in your brain stem, where automatic body functions such as breathing and heart rate are controlled. And when that's affected, that's when you can have an overdose and you can die. Opioids block pain messages that are transmitted through the spinal cord, altering the body's feeling of pain. So you can use heroin or an opioid painkiller such as oxycodone or OxyContin, and doesn't mean it's helping your condition. All it's doing is numbing the pain. It's treating the symptom. But then a lot of people, you can become addicted very quickly, get used to that feeling. And some people do it to self-medicate, if there's other issues going on. They stimulate the feelings of pleasure by altering activity in the limbic system, which controls our emotions. So again, someone who's using an opioid illegally and not as prescribed, if it is a pain med, they will get used to this type of feeling. This was the poppy plant that I was talking about. There's some pictures of heroin, and then actually, because that's what we're going to talk about first, again, if you come up afterward, because these are really tiny to pass around, but if you're seeing these anywhere, at work, in your children's homes, these tiny, teeny little Ziploc baggies, you're not going to find these at the grocery store. Actually, Carol, would you mind walking these up and down so people can see them? You're going to find these. This is drug paraphernalia. It's like the little wee elfin bottles that I'm still having trouble getting, but they know what they are in head shops, and again, a lot of times that's how your drugs will come. So a little background, and I don't know if you can read that or in here, but I don't know how many of you knew that heroin was first manufactured by the Bayer Aspirin Company. Did anybody know that? A couple of you. Okay. It was back in 1874 an English chemist discovered, the compound, and then it was produced commercially in 1889. And actually they thought it was, just white bread, sliced white bread discovery. It was the catch-all, the cure-all for everything. And then, so it was here in the United States until 1910, and they found out people were becoming addicted. And just a little bit about addiction, the younger you are when you use something, the quicker you can become addicted. Your brain doesn't fully develop until you're 25 years old. So if you're an adolescent, if you're a middle schooler, you can pick up alcohol, pot, that's why we call them gateway drugs, because it's starting the addictive process. You can actually, if that addictive process has been started, then when you pick up something like heroin or cocaine, you can become addicted with one the first time you use, because the brain sensors have already been damaged. So here we are in our country, and people are using heroin and cough suppressants and stuff, and they found out they had to do something about it. So they came up and they substituted morphine, thinking that that was going to be a cure for the heroin addiction. So it turned out to be a big mess. And in 1914, the U.S. passed an act to control the sale and distributing of any morphine products, any opioid products. And it took to 24 till Congress banned the sale here in the United States, and it is a Schedule I substance. As I said before, heroin's extremely addictive. I'm going to give some stats in a few minutes. Some of the street names are, and of course this changes with the times, but boy is a really big one right now. Dope. When I grew up, dope meant pot or just any kind of drugs, where now it means heroin. Actually, we started having a lot of drug overdoses, with high school students several years ago. And, one boy said to the father, well, I know where he got the dope, and he's thinking, well, he couldn't have died from marijuana, and they were talking about heroin, because that's just the term that they call it now. Big H, black tar, hell dust, smack, thunder, China white. And China white, what's interesting is back in the 70s, that was like, really good stuff and pure form. Well, now they're calling, there's a fentanyl heroin mix, which is, you probably read about taking over in our country, and we're seeing a lot of deaths from. They're calling that China white now again. And I guess because, of how strong it is and how potent. So it can be used different ways. It can be injected, snorted, or smoked. And again, recently at a training, I found out, know your drug dealer if you are buying drugs, because there's some that's meant to be snorted, and if you inject that, you can. It's my understanding is it's more pure. Then that's a lot of the reasons that they're overdosing, and then she can die. So again, there's something called harm reduction when you're in the field, and that's one of the things that we've been trained on. There are different ways to inject it in your body, or to ingest it in your body. And again, that's explained in here. Some of the effects, and I won't go through all this because you do have your PowerPoint, but drowsiness and nodding out. And we've had so many parents come in, of young people, and they'll say, I didn't know. Actually, it was unfortunate. One young man who passed away from a heroin overdose, he was nodding out, and they just thought he was sleepy, and didn't recognize that there were signs and symptoms. I had another parent that I was dealing with many years ago, and she was a nurse. Same thing, her son was nodding out at dinner, and she knew he was using something, but she didn't realize that that was a sign and a symptom. So again, take advantage of this educational forum today and make sure you get information so you will know signs and symptoms. Constricted pupils, they're just like little pinpoints, and that's something that they can't hide. It's not like you could put Visine to get rid of the redness. So if you do suspect something, these are kind of signs you can look for. Again, one of the young people I was thinking of, vomiting. The father said that he could pinpoint the times he used, but he thought maybe he was drinking. Of course, you can overdose and have deaths. Withdrawal symptoms, a lot of times once you are addicted, you will continue to use, not to get that rush and that high, but to maintain, to stay what they call stay well, so that you don't get sick. If you are addicted, withdrawal symptoms can begin 6 to 8 hours after your last dose. Some of those symptoms are, your intense cravings, runny nose, muscle and bone pain, abdominal cramps, hot flashes, sweating, cold flashes with goosebumps. And again, we're going to talk a little bit about this later because we do have someone in recovery who's going to speak and can tell you firsthand, about the usage. The next slide, you'll see we did get some state stats released recently. If you go on Behavioral Health Administration website and click 2013, so you can see the increase in the state. Now these are heroin-related deaths. They went from, in 2011 to 247, to 2013 we had 464 deaths in our state. As you can see in Carroll County, we went from 2 to 14 deaths. Now, this year alone, just through May, we have had 13 heroin overdose deaths. That's in Carroll County. So if that continues, we're going to surpass this. So that's why we're working so hard to get the message out and the word out. You know, if you do suspect someone's using, call for help. Try to get them in treatment. We have lots of resources in our county. We're going to get into that, yes, but that is a great question. Well, one of the reasons we're seeing the heroin fentanyl mix. Now, I mentioned the patches. These are medical. What we're seeing is not medical grade fentanyl. It is synthetic being mixed. And the state has seen, now this was just from September to February, 55 overdose deaths from the fentanyl heroin mixed, and we actually had a fentanyl death of a young man out here that was pure fentanyl. He thought he was buying something called Scramble, which I'll have a picture of in a minute, and it turned out, you know, they're mixing it up. You know, we're not talking about chemists in a lab with white coats. We're talking about, it could be anybody, you know, so his happened to be 100% fentanyl. So we're seeing what they call non-medical grade. It's being cooked in illicit labs, and some of the names that they're referring to are Kill Bill, Game Over, you know, and they'll use names, Harry Potter, that are very popular, things that are strong, you know, Ray Lewis, things that people know. And sometimes it kills within minutes of ingesting it into your body. And why, I've been to a lot of trainings recently, why the fentanyl heroin mix? Well, throughout history, we've had a couple of times that this has happened in our country before. I know in 2006, the last one was in Chicago, and it was a cartel drug war between Mexico and Colombia where the heroin was coming in. Fentanyl makes it much stronger and much more potent. Fentanyl is 80 times more powerful than morphine and hundreds of times more powerful than just heroin alone. So unfortunately, even though people die, remember, drug dealers are all about the money. They're not our friends. They're not the user's friend. They're only about pumping up business. And what they want to do is get more people addicted to bump up the heroin trade. So, and again, I'll talk about why they felt that they needed to do that. And also, users can mistaken for regular heroin, the heroin fentanyl mix. And actually, it's always cut with something, you know, over the years. And now we've even seen it, we have some people testing positive for benzos with it. And they're not taking benzos, so the only thing they're using is heroin, so it's just something else they're being cut with, but that's another drug. And it's really important to acknowledge that this could be happening, because if someone overdoses and the paramedics are called and they give you something called a naloxone or Narcan, you know, which brings you back, you'll need more. They'll have to do it maybe 4, 5, 6 times, because the fentanyl, the receptors that attach, you know, to the brain sensors, receptors, it takes more to get those to release, you know, for the Narcan or the naloxone to work. The next picture, this is what they call Scramble. It's a capsule, and this is actually something from our county that someone brought into my office. So you can see half of it has been used, and so it is definitely out here. I had a parent call, say, oh, I found this, you know, what do I do with it? I said, come on in. And actually, you know, it was picked up, you know, by law enforcement and tested, and, you know, the child did get into treatment, and, you know, but that's what we're here for. You know, anything, any question, they find all kinds of things that they don't know, and that's why we're here to help. If we don't know, we will find out, because that's our job to do that. So it's just some stats. 80,000 people a year newly become addicted to heroin. And on a national average, and this number always blows me away, because I was still playing with Barbie dolls at this time of my life, for first-time uses between ages 9 and 12. 9 and 12, and that's national. In Carroll County, it is 12, so we're right in there we've had people 12 years old in treatment for heroin. So, heroin-related emergency room visits by youth 12 to 17 has quadrupled in the last year. So again, data and stats confirmed what we see in the field. And a lot of our stuff, we see it coming before it happens. Like with the heroin use, we saw the transition, and actually the transition was from prescription drugs, and I am going to talk about that. Something that I did learn recently, because we also do suicide awareness, 20% of alcohol and drug-related suicides are heroin users. And again, in our county, we've had that happen. We have the families come to the office afterward, and again, that's reinforced. IV users may inject 4 times or more a day. The effects are felt in 7 to 8 seconds. So you have, what's interesting from Carroll County, a lot of times they don't buy it in the county, but they'll go into Baltimore to get it. They'll make several trips in one day. It's, I guess they think that they're not going to use the next one, but now more recently we've been seeing where they'll go in and bring it back for them or their friends. So the next thing I want to talk about, how many people have heard of something called kratom? Oh, good. Well, I'm glad I'm talking about it. Notice next time when you're in a convenience store, you might see this. It's a legal, non-synthetic, it's a plant that's grown, addictive substance. It comes from the leaf of a tree grown in Southeast Asia, and it's widely available on the internet, but it is sold in convenience stores and gas stations. It comes in liquid powder, crushed leaves, gel caps. And what they're doing is they're brewing it in tree, or they're chewing it. But they're using it to get off of heroin or to stop the withdrawal symptoms. There's misinformation, amongst the users, and they think that, we hear it all the time, oh, we use this instead because it's going to help you. Well, the reason it helps you from going through withdrawal because it itself is also addicting, and it affects the opioid brain receptors. So if it's low dosages, it acts as a stimulant, and high doses, it acts as a sedative. But if you look at the next slide, you'll see some of the ways that it's sold. And I have seen the capsules in the gas stations hanging up. Some of the effects, again, you'll see the same as an opioid. Yes. Yes. That's a great question. This is being looked at now to be on a Schedule 1 because there's so many things out there. If you think about it, let's think about inhalants. Somebody could go in your house and dust off or spray paint and get high. So some things, unless they know, they're being abused, but it's hard to ban everything. That's where education comes into, and like we teach something called refusal skills, with the young people to make good decisions. But now that they do know about this is being looked at to be on a schedule, so it would be illegal. But until they find, that it's being abused, things are, oh my goodness, like probably every week we learn something new that's being abused. So, but just like with inhalants, certain things, you have to be now 18 to buy spray paint, because the people are inhaling it and things like that. And then it's always a process. But that's a great question. But you can see, so maybe next year if I come back, I can say this is illegal. Nausea, itching, sweating, dry mouth, constipation, a lot of the same, because it really is an opioid. It works in the opioid receptor, so it's a lot of the same things that you're going to see with heroin. Crocodile, again, many of you may not have heard of crocodile. This is a synthetic heroin. It started in Russia. It's homemade desmorphine. Again, I'm going to show you that. It's dirty. It's disgusting. It's a synthetic opiate. Why? Because it's 3 times cheaper than heroin. Again, they could be buying this and not know what they're getting. And we do know it's being sold. We've had, in our area, there's some documented cases. We've had some people in for treatment. I know throughout the United States, the DEA has a few documented cases. The injection lasts an hour and a half to 2 hours. It is highly, highly addictive. But the effects of this, it can cause gangrene, phlebitis, severe tissue damage, brain damage, your motor skills. The withdrawal is much more severe than heroin. Heroin, to my understanding, the withdrawal lasts 5 to 10 days. This can last up to a month. And a lot of times they're hospitalized and they're, tranquilized. Here's some pictures. Again, we first heard about it, believe it or not, from a local high school. I had a crisis counselor call me and say, what's croc? The kids are talking about croc. And that's what they call it, crocodile. And you can see how it eats the tissue away. And then the next slide is actually, they're making it. And the things that you need, paint thinner, gasoline, and look at the conditions. It's not very sanitary. Again, we have plenty of brochures up here. It's very interesting to read about, not that it hopefully would ever affect you and your family, but you never know, community, someone may be talking about it, that way you'll be prepared with knowledge. Okay, I had the question, why are we seeing the heroin increase? Well, a couple years ago, if you, kept up with numbers or in the news a lot, you're hearing about prescription drug abuse, all over the nation, not just here in our county. And a lot of things happen to try to, curb that and get that under control. Education with doctors, with writing prescriptions. Emergency room, I'm happy to say now our emergency room, instead of giving 30 pain meds, if you go in for something, they give 5. Dentists, we've sent letters out from the health department. Also, there's a prescription drug monitoring system now in the state at your pharmacies and doctor's offices. There was just a lot of things to combat this, so we saw the decrease in the numbers, but for the past 2 years, we saw the increase in heroin. So that's why all the special task force, they were trying to get rid of or control one problem, and it started another. But in all fairness, it was probably going to eventually happen anyway, and I think Tim will probably talk about that later. The transition to heroin, because it's cheaper. 30 milligram of OxyContin is $30, and 80 milligrams $120 because they're hard to come by. Where heroin you can get 5 for $10. So ultimately chasing that same kind of high that they initially got, probably eventually most people are going to transition over. So, but this is why we're seeing this increase. Actually, in our county, we had a decrease in prescription drug deaths last year, and the increase in the heroin. But what is prescription drug abuse? And a lot of young people, and even people our age, they think, well, it's prescribed by a doctor. I'm not getting it from a drug dealer. It's okay. But prescription drug abuse is if you're taking someone else's medicine. First of all, that is abuse. You should never take medicine that is not prescribed for you. Take it in a way that other than it's prescribed, a higher dose, more frequently. Taking it in a non-traditional way, such as crushing and snorting, or parachuting, which is crushing and putting it, in a napkin and throwing it back into your throat. Or also sometimes they'll, just kind of like huff it all in. And obviously, you get addicted or taking it for the reason to get high, that you like the feeling that you get from it. In 2011, more than 4,500 young people per day abused prescription drugs for the first time. High school teens, we're seeing 1 in 5 are abusing, that's a drug of choice, of prescription drugs. There's something called farming parties, and I see some people shaking their heads. And pretty much that's when they mix it all up. It's not just narcotics, they're mixing up, it's, antibiotics, it's cold medicine, over-the-counters, which is over-the-counters is another whole issue in itself. We do see that in our county. Of course, you see that everywhere. But where are they getting these things to do this? Where do you think they're getting these things? The meds. Parents' medicine cabinet, exactly. So we do have precautions against that. We have prescription drop-off sites. We have several in our county that are 24/7, and we have a brochure on it. The state does national take-back, the nation does national take-back days several times a year. The DEA picks everything up and they burn everything, incinerate everything. But it's not just your own children. It could be friends. And think about this. So the only place in your house that you allow people to go and lock the door is your bathroom. So they could be rooting through your medicine cabinet and you have no idea. Then you say, oh, well, I might need some of this for later. And actually we've had that happen, with an adult. thought he might need some and took some out of his neighbor's house and ended up getting arrested for it. So, but anyway, but back to the farming parties. This is a term they also call skittling trail mix parties that we're seeing our young people in the county do. Again, I hate to tell you this, but middle schoolers. But this is still a great place to live because it's everywhere. But they'll bring, sometimes even in the big manila envelopes, they'll bring them into school. And if they get caught, our office sometimes is their punishment. We have some classes they have to come to and such. And, you know, I'll be like, what were you thinking? Like, what brought you to me? And sometimes they're not thinking about it. Remember, the brain's not fully developed till they're 25. But it'll be like, you know, one time it was, well, he told me to bring it in, or I just came from homeschool and I wanted to fit in. You know, there's all kinds of reasons. And, you know, they really don't understand how dangerous this can be. So again, that's where it comes back to us in the community and parents, you know, to educate. And don't ever miss the opportunity to talk about things like this, you know, a teaching moment, even if you're in the car and driving and things. So they just mix everything together and they kind of take it. Sometimes it's on dares, sometimes, you know, it's, you know, definitely to get high. But they end up in the hospital, they end up with cardiac arrest, they end up with all kinds of things. Because a lot of times at the farming parties, they really don't know what they're taking. And unfortunately, I know you couldn't see the underage drinking video where parents host. We've even had sometimes parents host these. Parents that are addicted to prescription drugs. And we did have a young man tell us about his brother had one. And so, of course, we always say, did you know, tell a responsible adult? And he said his mom was there. And what happens is they'll charge to get in. It'll be the house. They'll charge, you know, $5 or whatever. And the kids will provide their own, but they provide the place and kind of look the other way because they think they're safe if they're in their home. So, which is really not the case with drinking or with any kind of drug use. Some prescription drug facts. 15.7 million people aged 12, again there's that age 12 or older, use prescription type drugs, and that was in 2012. And 6.7 million did so in the last month. 1 infant born per hour with withdrawal symptoms in the United States, and that was in 2009. And again, we do have that in Carroll County. We have things in place though also. You know, we have a SART team, which is screening, assessment, referral, and treatment. We have people with the health department that work with our pregnant population in the county. So, Maryland has had, 293 prescription-related opioid deaths in 2012. And then Carroll County in 2012, we had 12. In 2013, we had 13. In 2012, we had 17. So you can see heroin went up, deaths in our county, and the prescription drugs went down a little bit. And the next one, I won't go through the whole thing, is just some symptoms of the withdrawal. Again, a lot of them are the same because they're opioids, you know, as the heroin and signs and symptoms. Just some types of painkillers that are commonly abused: Percocets, Oxycontins, Oxycodones, Vicodin, Dilaudid, codeine, Demerol. And again, you can see, you know, the signs and symptoms are the same pretty much throughout. So Hydro is a new painkiller that was released in March. And this was released even though the FDA advisory board voted, it was 11 to 2, not to approve it. And they approved it anyway. And they're calling it the super painkiller and heroin in a capsule. And that's, you know, just something else for us to be worried about. They're already talking about it on the streets. They were talking about it before it was released. We were hearing about it from users. It's 10 times stronger than your regular hydrocodone. What has happened with this also, there is no abuse deterrent on it, on the formula. Like some of them have, I think it was Oxycontin, ended up putting something where you couldn't crush it and snort it. And this does not have that. The next one is just a slide with some stats that you can go over. And I just wanted to get to some facts before we get to our next speaker. Prescription opioids act on the same receptors as heroin and is highly addictive, can be highly addictive. And again, I talked about the different reasons that people were switching. I wanted to mention purple drank. Has anybody heard about purple drank or scissor, Texas tea? It's on a lot of album covers. We have a lot of musicians singing about it. Our young people, again, we get calls from the schools. They call it double cupping, lean, because it's a disassociative and it makes you lean. But what it is it's codeine, cough syrup, Sprite, and Jolly Ranchers mixed. And they'll put it, they call it double cupping because they usually put it in 2 styrofoam cups because it fizzes over. Again, it's like drinking liquid heroin. We did have a death of a young man out here from this. There's been popular musicians that have died from this. They're just totally addicted. I know Justin Bieber is one that sings about this. Again, we have brochures up here. If you look at the signs and symptoms, they're all the same as every other opioid. The next slide, you'll see the album cover. Big Mo, he actually died at age 30 from cardiac arrest, and he was addicted to this. And when I first saw this album cover, I didn't realize it says City of Syrup. We learned about this from the youth in the community, and then after we realized what Purple Drank was, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's right there, you know, City of Syrup, and he's just, and that's what kids listen to. So again, we want to monitor, be aware. Any drug use can be like Russian roulette. Your heroin could be cut with other drugs laced with fentanyl. It could be crocodile. Even your marijuana could be laced with heroin or cocaine. And I encourage you, after Tim finishes speaking, to come over to the booth. I have different types of pipes that you can look at that you may not know is a pipe. This looks like a lipstick. This looks like a bracelet. The kids are wearing these in school. And something that's just really common in your house, you might be seeing these, or dryer sheets in your child's room and wondering why, because they blow the smoke through to mask the smell. But there's another thing they can use this for. We had somebody busted. They put the cocaine fentanyl mix on here, rolled it up, and put it in, and was selling it that way. So, again, if you're seeing these and wondering why, or all your dryer sheets are gone, this could be the reason. In our county, we have an opioid overdose prevention plan, and we actually meet every month. The whole state, it's mandated. Our governor just had a release I think it was just about a week ago in the Baltimore Sun about this plan. And, you know, just some of the things that we're doing is proper medication disposal. We do tracking and monitoring. We're educating in the community. Also, we're educating the recovery population, you know, besides the schools, health professionals, working with law enforcement, with the state's attorney's office. And the drug force has a diversion team that they're going to see the pharmacies, you know, about fake prescriptions, things like that. We have the naloxone trainings in our county. We have several PSAs that we're making and awareness videos concerning all of these. We've actually partnered with the DEA, HIDA, which is the high intensity drug trafficking area, working, you know, together with them. And again, you know, the next couple pages are about what we're doing in our county, so we are very proactive. And then the last page is just about some health department services. Again, don't hesitate to use us. That's what we're here for. Now, before, the very last slide, are our state's overdose stats. And last year we just got our stats, 858 overdoses in Maryland and 24 in Carroll County. Does anybody have any questions before I introduce our next speaker that's also part of this program that we work a lot with? Yes?
It seems to me that something is missing in the homes. I don't know what it is, but I don't know why the kids have to go out and do these things and just keep getting bigger and gone.
Okay, the question was, it seems like something could be missing in the homes. You know, the kids go out and do this type of thing. And first of all, I'd just like to say addiction doesn't discriminate. And you can do, you know, have all the tools and have an intact family that's functional. And it could be a peer. It could be a friend at school. You know, sometimes kids don't even know, they get introduced and they don't know that that's what's happening. You know, somebody might slip something into, you know, something. So again, we always want to teach them, and things, you know, education does start at home. So, you know, be aware. Take those moments as teaching moments to talk to them. You know, try to have them make good choices and decisions, but don't be afraid to reach out. Like I said, we have parenting classes at the health department, and we'll go to you. You know, we go into places besides, you know, just having the sessions there, but we also have something called Staying Connected with Your Teen, which is really awesome. It's, again, all this is free, we get grants for it, but it's communication, it's risk and protective factors, it's not just drug education, it's consequences, parenting styles, but the whole foundation is that it's bonding and communication, and that's what you want. It's a lot of times starts a dialogue, and it's never too late to start, no matter how old your child is. You know, when people will call me sometimes and say, oh, I have a 15-year-old, shall we talk to them about drugs? I'm like, you know, it starts the day they're born, because you're bonding with them. You know, just everything that you do with them, the family meals together and vacations and decision making and letting them have a voice. But at the same time, a parent sometimes can do everything right, and it's an outside, you know, influence. And it only takes 7 seconds to make one wrong choice that can change your entire life. So, and on that note, I would like to introduce Tim Weber from Weber Sober Homes, and maybe he can put a different light, you know, just on everything I've talked about. Tim himself is in recovery, and he's going to also talk about, you know, how that came about, his addiction, how that came about, and hope in the sober homes. So, thank you, Tim. Here's the mic. Oh. I don't think it'll go into the, they're filming.
Okay. My name is Tim Weber. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I don't like that, so I'll come over here. I'm in long-term recovery from drug and alcohol addiction, and I'm involved in a recovery program that it is our tradition that we keep personal anonymity and don't really talk about that name. But if you want to know one-on-one how step by step I turn my life around, I'll tell anybody anytime. You can email me, you can find me. If you Google Weber Sober Homes, you can go right to my website. You can email me, and I'll talk to anybody. I do it a lot. A lot of times Linda asks me. Is this still okay? A lot of times Linda asked me to speak, and I know it's on addiction because that's what I talk about, but I never know who I'm going to be talking to. So I just show up, and I love being involved with the stuff that they do. So I was thinking, I just got back from vacation. So 2 days ago, I was on a beach in the Bahamas, and I was out doing a morning run on the beach, and there was an old lifeguard stand. And I sat on that lifeguard stand, and I just looked out at that blue water and the white sand, and I thought, man, it just doesn't get any better than this. And I will take it back to 2002. I was in an abandonment in Baltimore City, and it was on Washington Boulevard. It was the 3rd floor. I had scooped up a bunch of cigarette butts. I had 1 pill of Scramble. I had an orange extension cord coming through so that some of us could have some heat from a little heater. And I remember thinking, it just doesn't get much better than this. And it's pretty amazing that you can have that thought, living a life like that. But as long as I had my dope, as long as I had something to make me not feel and think, I was okay. And that's pretty sad. So what I want to do is take a minute to tell you guys how I went from a kid who played lacrosse in high school in Columbia, Maryland, to living in an abandonment, and then really how I got out of that to end up now a homeowner in Carroll County. I pay taxes, I have a business, and I run a couple of sober houses. And I know I don't have a lot of time to tell you that, so I'm going to do kind of a Reader's Digest version. I grew up in, I hear people asking and talking about, how does it happen? I grew up in a fairly normal family. My dad worked for NASA. If you saw the movie Apollo 13, my dad, we lived in Houston at that time. And my dad worked for those guys on TV, and he was an aerospace engineer. And my mom was a school teacher, and I was the youngest of. I had 2 older brothers, and we played Little League baseball. And my dad was pretty strict. He was a Navy guy, and he was, he led the house with an iron fist. So I was a pretty scared, timid, shy kid from the way he brought us up. And the first time I drank alcohol in the 8th grade, I was no longer a scared, timid, shy kid. I mean, in 2 beers, I went from a scared, timid, shy kid to James Bond, and thought I was the coolest kid in the car that I was in. I could talk to anybody, and it just slowly started to escalate. And I put myself in positions. We moved from Houston to Columbia when I was in the 8th grade. That's when the drinking started. And I somehow got through high school. I smoked weed. I played lacrosse. I was not the kind of kid you would have thought was going to be the next CEO of IBM, but I was not the kind of person you would have thought was going to be living in an abandoned picking up cigarette butts. One night in college, I'll fast forward, I went back to Texas to go to college, and I was out with a group of guys and girls that looked just like me. Clean cut, athletic, good kids. We were at a party, there was drinking, some people were smoking weed, and some people were doing a drug called crystal meth, and I happened to stumble back in a room, and some of those people were injecting that drug in their vein. And they looked just like me. I can't stress that enough. They didn't look like homeless drug addicts in Baltimore. They looked like clean-cut college kids that I'd just seen in class the day before. And it wasn't hurting them, so I thought, what would it hurt? And so I tried it. And just to let you know that it doesn't affect everybody the same way, a guy I was in college with tried it that night too and never picked it up again. He didn't like it. I continued to chase it. At the age of 25, I stumbled across heroin, and that decision cost me 13 years of my life. I could not get off of heroin. I went from Houston, Texas, doing black tar heroin, to moving to Baltimore, to doing scramble, and I was in and out of 18 rehabs, in and out of jail. I was homeless. I overdosed 4 times in the last part of my addiction before I got clean in 2003. And I mean, overdosed to where I woke up and there's somebody standing over the top of me in an ambulance, a paramedic, saying, "Mr. Weber, you were dead. We had to shoot you full of Narcan." I'm sure they called it something. They might have called it Narcan. And make me breathe again. So it almost killed me. I mean, it literally almost killed me. And I spent literally 13 years in and out of the streets, in and out of jail, and in and out of sticking a needle in my arm and trying to get off of that. And it was a tough road. There is a good ending to the story. In 2003, I walked into Howard County General Hospital with no insurance, no help from my family, which they shouldn't have been anymore because they'd already put me through a whole bunch of rehabs and had bailed me out many times. And I started to slowly piece my life together through a recovery house in Baltimore City. I got serious about it, and I started to link up with guys that weren't knuckleheads in the house, that were really serious about turning their lives around, that wanted a job, that wanted to be productive members of society. And I started hanging out with these people, and slowly, step by step, my life started to change. I got a job for $6.50 an hour, was the first job I had when I got into recovery, and that barely I made enough money to catch a bus to that job, come back, pay the rent at that sober house, and do the next thing the next day and the next week. And I stayed there for 6 months, and things slowly started to get better. I eventually bought a flower shop in Woodbine, Maryland, that I have today. We just celebrated our 10th year, and life just started to get better, but I kept my recovery the first and foremost. At 5 years sober, I wrote a book called Gutters and Roses that started to get out, and that was when Junction was still around, and I would do stuff with Junction and people started reading the book, and they would ask me, is there a place that we can go like you talk about in this book? And we didn't have anything like that here in Westminster, and one thing led to another, and I opened up my first sober house in 2009, and then the second one very soon after that. And I can tell you, when I first opened these houses, I envisioned 30-somethings. I envisioned guys like me that were in their mid-30s, had no insurance, and just had nowhere to go. That's what would show up. It was so far from what really ended up happening, because most of the guys right now, I have 14 guys, 7 in each house. 10 of them are 18 to 24. Out of those guys, every one of them, almost every one of them were hooked on heroin. Every one of them have already been through 3, 4, 5 rehabs. Every one of them have, maybe not every one of them, have extensive records that if they mess up again could land them back in jail. And these are kids that if they were with me today, and Linda and them can attest to this, that you would not think that they were people that are on the street doing heroin. It happens so innocently sometimes. It can happen just by a lacrosse or a football or a baseball injury, and they get prescribed Vicodin, and they get hooked on it, and one thing leads to another. The reason the jump, Linda hit on it, they've cut down. People can't go get prescription drugs anymore, so they're going to Baltimore. Now they don't even have to go to Baltimore. They just go right in Westminster somewhere, which Brian's going to take care of that, I'm sure, pretty soon. It's amazing. I tell you, I was on vacation, and I got an email from a kid that was in my house about maybe a year and a half ago, and he just died. He came to the house. He didn't stay very long. I don't remember the particulars of this one. I don't know if his parents let him come back home. I don't know if what the situation was, but he didn't stay long at all. And I get an email while I'm gone that he's overdosed. I get tons of calls like that. This is not an illness or a disease that you can stick your head in the sand over. If someone has it, it must be treated, and if it's not treated, it's going to continue to come back. I'm a perfect example of that from all the times I tried to quit and didn't treat it. I would quit, I would stay quit for a little while, and then eventually the obsession would return, and the next thing you know, I'd be doing it. I'm a very strong-willed and strong-minded person. I'm not a weak person because I couldn't stop doing drugs. It's an illness that just kept attacking me, and people have to understand and realize it that way. Prevention is key to it. Prevention, when it was going on when I was in high school, we didn't need it as much, I think, as the way it is now, because when I was in high school, when they were talking about heroin, that was Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin. We smoked, not to minimize this, but we smoked weed and drank and maybe I did cocaine a couple times in high school, but it was, which I know is real bad. But today, 12, 13 years old, they already know what scramble is. They already know where to get scramble. They already know all of these things. It's unbelievable. So to know the signs and to educate people is the key to hopefully preventing it and hopefully getting people in the right direction. Because I can tell you, I'm a perfect example that you can recover from this. You can recover if you stay in recovery and you keep doing the things that you're supposed to do to not go back to where you were. My first rehab, I was 19 years old. And I remember the counselor telling my family, you probably should go ahead and prepare a grave for him because I don't think he's going to make it. And I did. Now, it took a whole lot of, from 19 to 37, I spent in living hell on the streets because of the things and the decisions I was making. But it can be, you can get to a state of recovery in this thing. So there is good news with it. Sometimes I'll hear Linda and I hear new things and I think, what are we going to do? I mean, I don't know how to even begin to detect some of this stuff. I've recently started doing, y'all ready? I've recently started We do a lot of drug testing at my house, and they have to blow in an alcohol machine every night. There's a strict curfew. I have drug dogs that come through the house. I mean, I do everything I can do to prevent anything from going on in the houses. But, I can't test for purple drink, I mean, I can see it, and I have, and I've put people out for that because you can see the effects of it. But if they did it and it didn't get caught, you can't see it. So I've recently got a lab where I'm going to start doing direct lab testing so that you can test for that. It's more expensive and it's going to cost more money to do, but it's priceless to be able to know that these guys are not doing some of the things, because if you're an addict, you're going to find a way to get out of yourself. If it's not the heroin that is very obvious with the pinpoint eyes and going in a cup and testing it, and you see it right away, they're going to figure out a way to do it. People have done the dust off stuff that we've caught, so it's, this is just, it's awesome the way that Linda and them do this, because they look, I live this life, and I hear stuff new every time I go to one of these things with Linda of stuff that's going on. I mean, every time I hear something different when there's some new information that comes out. And sure enough, she'll say it here, and I'll bring it up at the houses, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I know what that is." So it's definitely not just something going on somewhere else, because a good portion of the guys in my house that are 18 to 24 went to Carroll County high schools, went to the schools around here. So it's definitely something. It's definitely something to keep your eye out for if you're a parent or if you have friends, and if you know something's wrong, reach out immediately to try to figure out. I was telling Amy yesterday, my phone rang. I looked down at the number. I recognized the lady that had called, and it wasn't somebody in here that I'm talking about. And the second I looked at the number, I said, I knew she'd be calling back. Because she talked to me a year and a half ago about her son, and he convinced her it was okay to come home. He really didn't have as much of a problem. Those guys at that house are really bad. I don't need that. And now I'm getting the phone call. I haven't called her back yet. I'm going to call her when I leave here. And I know what the call is going to be. He's out of control, which he was out of control a year and a half ago. I had said that. So, again, Weber Sober Homes, if you Google it, you can find any information. I'm more than willing to talk to anybody. I might not call you back immediately. I get a lot of phone calls, but I definitely will. And obviously, Linda and them and Carol and Amy are awesome resources. The good news is, there's this county, Carroll County, is very on top of helping people recover from this. They're very on top of keeping in tune with things. And, not saying this just to, because I've talked to Brian, and I know that it's going to be, hopefully there's going to be some different things implemented. I'm saying it publicly. And it's because we need, I go into Gateway School, and I do a group once a week with kids there that are, obviously they're already in some kind of trouble or they wouldn't be at Gateway School. But it needs to be done even before then. Maybe it didn't need to be done 30 years ago when I was in high school to this proportion, but now it most definitely needs to be, because it's happening real quick. I could tell you stories that you couldn't even imagine from the two 18-year-olds I have at my house right now. It's there, it's in the schools. If you don't think it is, you must live under a rock, because I'm telling you, it's most definitely is there. So that's all out of me. Any question?
You said you refer to guys at your house. Is your houses for men, or are you just saying guys as in?
Yeah, it's just for men. 18 to.
Okay. I was just wondering whether you had mixed, or one house was female and one was male.
Yeah, there is a couple of ladies' houses, and there's some information over here on the board. They're not mine. I think women should do a women's house and the guys should do a guy's house. But it's all guys. Anybody else?
What is the
You know, I always get asked that question, and you think I would have a better answer each time. You know, I was just done. I mean, that I have been, like I said, I overdosed. I mean, I woke up. I almost wish you could have a video of someone when they overdose and then you bring them back, because once they brought me back, I didn't know what happened. I just woke up. So there was I don't remember what happened. So, I mean, a few hours later, I was shooting heroin again after an overdose. Wow. So that was not the bottom. The bottom was I was telling a girl who is now my wife that I was going into treatment again, and she gave me a look like I was full of you know what, because I was, and I just was, that look that she gave me was a look that it literally changed my life. It was a look of disappointment and shame and, you know, how can you do this? You know, I had kids at the time. You know, I had, you know, pretty much almost grown-up kids, and, you know, let everybody down. And that was it. I walked in and just started to move forward. Being arrested, living in those abandoned houses wasn't it. There's a part in our book, the book in my recovery program that I'm involved in, that says we will not remember the consequence of the first drink that we took. You know, we won't remember the consequence of a month, even a week ago, of what the consequences are when we drink or drug. And that's what it was for me. The consequences of what I did, I could not remember because because the pleasure of doing it and the way it would take me away. So you know, I just got to a point. Yeah. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
I know this was a heavy program, but it could affect somebody in your family or that you know, and this is why we wanted to bring it to the forefront. It's not just kids, it's also adults. So, you know, in the mixing of alcohol and prescription drugs or street drugs or whatever. So I thank you for your attention this morning. The mayor would like to say something. Next month is on Threat Alert, another big, powerful one. Department of Corrections and Safety is going to present it. Here we go.
I'm not going to keep you long. Again, that was quite a program. I kind of was sitting here listening to all of this and thinking, gee whiz, I must be a babe in the woods. I had no idea what the impact to our society really is. I mean, you know, for years have thought of this as an inner city problem, but certainly it's not. It's in our community, it's in our towns, it's in our families, and quite a challenge. You know, we hear various states, including our own, seem to be rushing headlong into legalizing marijuana or decriminalizing marijuana. We've done that already, and I have to wonder, well, how can we? It seems like we take one step forward and 3 steps back. It's just a scary thing to think about what the future lies, and I think that it's important to let your legislatures know how you feel about this. But enough of that. You see that I'm in beach mode. I've got a Hawaiian shirt on and a stubble, and I've spent 4th of July weekend with Arthur down on the Outer Banks, so I hope that was an exciting thing. But I have to, it's kind of like, I guess, being on narcotics. I have a little withdrawal period from the time I come off vacation to the time I come back to real life. And hopefully by this time next week, I'll be back to real life. And speaking of next week, we have a very special event in Taneytown. Coming up next Saturday, the 19th, we have the Nautical Wheelers, which is Maryland's premier beach party band. So I've been kind of debating whether just to kind of maybe hold on to the stubble for one more week, just so I can be an official Buffett guy at the beach. This is the 3rd year we've had the Nautical Wheelers in Taneytown. They're a great band. They do great beach music, Buffett music, Beach Boys and stuff like that. And we're going to have a great time. There'll be food and festivities and a lot of good music. So whatever you're doing next Saturday, see if you can change it and come to Taneytown, listen to the Nautical Wheels. I think you'll be glad that you did. There's no admission charge. You don't have to pay $80 for a Jimmy Buffett ticket, but you get the same kind of music, so it's a pretty good deal. I hope everybody had a good July 4th and celebrated their independence. Glad to see some of our victorious primary winners with us today. We're good to see Commissioner Rouse. And just want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm going to start the mic. Jim McCarron with Atlantic Bay Mortgage Group. Start here with Councilwoman Foster today.
Good morning, Diane Foster, Taneytown City Council and Board of Trustees for Carroll Community College.
Good morning, Andrea Brown, Relationship Banker here at BB&T in Taneytown.
Good morning, Bonnie Staub, Carroll County Tourism.
Good morning, Anne Marie Parrish, the new Community Outreach Consultant for IMA World Health.
I'm Courtney Wonderlick, therapist at Silver Oak.
Sorry, I gotta get out of here. I want to introduce to all of you Laura Howard. She is now the executive assistant of the Taneytown Chamber of Commerce, and we're proud to have her. So please come see her and talk to her. And do you want to say anything?
Yeah, just stop by the new office and check it out. Thank you.
Her hours are Tuesday to Saturday, 12 to 4, and it's right next to the flower shop, 2 doors down from the new bakery. Yeah, I'll introduce myself. I'm Wilma Brown. I'm secretary of the Chamber of Commerce, and you all have, there's about 4 of them on your table. If you want more, I have more. But we're having our annual bingo. I think it's about the 8th or 9th one. I've lost track. And it's August 15th. I'm looking for door prizes from organizations, and if you would care to sponsor one of our products, I'd love to see you about that. I'm also the, just went out of my head, the wellness liaison for Carroll Chiropractic. So if you'd like to have a free workshop, one of our doctors would love to come and talk to you. Thank you.
Hello, Betsy Baker, volunteer, Taneytown, and Silver Oak Academy.
Hi, I'm Linda Hine, owner-manager of Crow's, just behind the bowling alley. The big special going on by Crow's right now is rest of summer free. So if you join right now, you're going to have 6 weeks of free workouts and coaching.
Morning, Dave Roush, County Commissioner.
Hi, Chris O'Hanion, Infinity Global Travel, full-service travel agency in Taneytown.
Good morning, Kelly Schuster. I'm sales and leasing consultant at Wade Chevrolet. Sheila Wance, Wade Chevrolet. Stop by. We got 0% for 72 months.
Brian Bowman, Carroll County Chamber of Commerce.
Donna Shabunko, WTTR.
Good morning, Jeff Laird, WTTR. I'm representing the little kids table here, so thank you very much for having us.
Good morning, everyone. Blaine Bowery from Barnes Bollinger Insurance Services.
Hi, I'm Rick Galloway. I have Rick Galloway Music.
Good morning, Rob Burke, Comptroller's Office, Carroll County Government.
Victoria Roten with AMR Jewelry Boutique in Westminster.
Hi, I'm Megan Grogan. I'm with Carroll Magazine and Cone Creative.
I'm Michelle King from Reminiscent Remix Natural Store, organic, gluten-free, fair trade products, and hopefully I'll be opening in a few short weeks next to the post office here in Taneytown.
Hi, Bobby Jo Fowl with City Treasurer for Taneytown and also Freedom Farm on Bullfrog Road, and we're now taking orders for our meat birds, which will be ready in September.
Eric Bender, owner of Tawney Service Center, and I am also the director of the soon-to-be-built Taneytown Observatory. It's going to be the largest handicapped accessible observatory this side of the Mississippi. If you guys have any information, feel free to give me a call if you want to help out or donate any services. Thanks.
Good morning, Keith Reed, residential and commercial rental properties in Taneytown.
Dick Weaver, Commissioner candidate for District 2.
Laura Volker with the merchandiser.
Bob Miller, and my hat this morning is HSP. Month of Sunday's underway. We had a very successful Vandals concert last Sunday. This week it's a local group, Midnight Run, and then Dean Crawford, and finish up with the Hard Day's Night Beatles Band. So please come out, it's free. We ask for a donation of product or cash, and it all goes to HSP for those who are less fortunate. Thank you.
Kurt Hyder, Veterans Services, State of Maryland.
Good morning, Janice Kispert, Rape Crisis Intervention Service of Carroll County.
Good morning, Cynthia Lameron, manager at New Windsor State Bank and also the president of the Taneytown Chamber. And I look forward to all of you getting in touch with Laura. We're revamping our website, but while we're getting a new one up and under construction, please send her. If you're a party, you belong to an association that's having an event, we want to get them all on there, all the events around the area on our website. So please go to our website that there's now, it's biz.taneytown.org, I believe off the top of my head, but email a flyer or some information to Laura so she can get your event out on our site.
Hello, I'm Jason Stambaugh, and I run the Carroll Biz Challenge, which is a startup business competition for local entrepreneurs where they can win $5 grand, and it kicks off next month.
Kevin Nottingham, first class mechanical, plumbing, heating, air conditioning service, based out of Westminster.
Isaiah Artis, I'm a senior at Silver Oak.
My name is student athlete Dave, is a student athlete that's attending Silver Oak Academy.
Raekwon Gentry, senior at Silver Oak.
Trayvon Johnson, student athlete at Silver Oak.
How you doing? My name is Devontae Washington, senior at Silver Oak Academy.
Morning, everybody. I'm Sal Shannon from Community Media Center. I'm very proud of what the boys are doing here. We started a regular training program with them at Community Media Center for video production, and I've been seeing some rapid improvement in their skills, so I guess we're going to find out when we watch this video. But I want to let you know the CMC is having our annual picnic tomorrow. If you'd like to come out between 10 and 12, some food and games and music, and there'll be a lot of good times, so I hope you will come. Bring a dog. The SPCA folks are going to be out there. Nikki is having a little dog show, so it'll be a fun time. But we appreciate everybody coming out for this event and supporting what Silver Oak is doing, so thank you.
Speaking of Silver Oak, they just graduated, Miss Wunderlich, how many, 6, 7? 13 total. They now have, it's called the Callard House, Kahlert, which is a home, the transitional home for the students that have graduated, are working, are going to school, they're learning life skills. There's 4 of them right now in this home. This is taking them to the next level. And so we're real proud of this. We're one of the first in the state to ever have this kind of program. So it's due to the conduct and the behavior and the learning that these young men do that we have this. And we have a Callert Foundation that is for these students to move forward with their life also. So I thank you for all coming, and we will see you next month. Thank you.